All right, welcome to the Liberating Joy and Learning podcast. I'm Robert Beckshan, and today we're going to start this new year with another new season or category of our podcast entitled Liberating Healing in Our Learning. Now, as stated in Verena's book, Learning Liberated, providing the intrepid learner with liberating perspectives and applications for joyful growing adventures, another category of principles that help liberate joy in learning are learning blockades. Now, these function similar to primary lenses, only these are based on deception and lack of control. Negative feelings like shame, fear, jealousy, selfishness, and hate come after allowing learning blockades to keep us from learning in healthy ways. While the goal in life isn't to completely eliminate negative feelings, every negative emotion has a point where good desires are sidetracked from their beneficial intentions. In many ways, negative feelings related to learning and growth are simply a failure to understand the learning and growth process well enough to find joy in them. When we understand learning blockades and take steps to remove them, we can heal from past misconceptions and emotional struggles related to learning. Now, in this season of our podcast, we're going to seek to understand learning blockades in order to liberate healing in our learning. Now, the following are the learning blockades versus the primary lenses. For instance, the first blockade is assuming defeat versus wandering shamelessly. As you remember, that was our first primary lens. The second, surrendering desires versus claiming our learning. Third, rejecting failures and successes versus owning our failures and successes. Fourth, accepting deceit versus stretching upward, inward, and outward. Fifth, fighting learning cycles versus tuning into learning seasons. Sixth, halting development versus working with resistance. And seventh, obeying a master versus training with a mentor. Now, just from their titles, what learning blockade do you feel resonates the strongest with you?
I've been working with these for years, but I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about them until just recently. And I've had a situation where I was like, oh, I really need to pay attention to these better. And so I think assuming defeat is really the first one for me. And we're going to talk about that more shortly, but that's what's calling to me. Also rejecting successes. And I think that's pretty close to assuming defeat, right? When you reject your successes, then you're not going to be able to, you can't make any learning happen. Right.
Because you're a lot of when I'm thinking of these, I have the similar thought about these learning blockades about assuming defeat and accepting deceit. I think those are the first two that a lot of people run into when they're trying to learn something new that they and I think it ties also with rejecting failures and successes. But I think when somebody starts trying to learn something new, it gets hard real quick,
right?
And they throw up their hands and say, "Oh, I can't do it. I'm not good enough," or I don't have the talent, or I don't have the right tools, or whatever. That's accepting defeat or accepting the deceit that you're not able to do it, or you're not valuable, or you're not talented, or whatever. And I think those two resonate the most with me.
Right, and I don't like you were saying earlier. Negative feelings, they're not things that we want to spend a lot of time on.
No.
And I think that's why I haven't wanted to bring them up in this podcast.
Right.
Because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about blockades. Really, I think a lot of the solution to learning blockades is focusing on the primary lenses.
Right.
But occasionally it's good to be like, whoa, I am really, despite what I know about learning, I'm throwing up blockades for myself, and I need to stop it.
Yeah, and it's helpful to recognize them. Like you said, we're not going to dwell a lot on them.
Right.
But I think it's good to understand that there's a corollary with every primary lens. There's a corollary, a blockade that goes along with that learning, that primary lens, that we need to recognize could be there, so that when struggles happen, we can say, okay, am I blocking myself, or is it just this part of the process?
Right. So now that we've introduced them, today we'll talk about the first learning blockade, assuming defeat. And I just want to add another note in here. I mean, maybe part of the reason I didn't want to talk about these is because the learning blockades that I throw up are very personal, right? It's difficult to be like, wow, I really am blocking my learning in this area. And they're typically things that are very personal and private to me. And so it is difficult to talk about some of them.
Right.
I love this quote from Marianne Williamson. The ego prefers that a mild river of misery runs through the background of our lives, never bad enough to make us question whether our own choices are creating the pain. Like this sense that it's so we it's like we feel like we need a certain amount of negativity in our lives, and to some extent that's true, but sometimes we put up with negativity that we don't need.
Right.
And I think that's what she's getting at there.
I agree.
I think it does a great job of describing what we're doing when we assume defeat, which is when one wonders about the possibility of something a person has no control over, or quite often any valuable understanding of, or any sense that you really can overcome it.
Right.
And God, we just do it a lot when we don't recognize it.
It's very easy to say, well, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I was, just a little sidebar, I was scrolling through social media a while ago, and a little clip popped up of Matthew McConaughey, the actor, talking about things that he learned when he was a kid. And one of the things that he pointed out is the maddest his dad ever got at him was when he said, I can't.
Right.
Because you're accepting defeat. You're accepting you're not good enough. Right there.
Right.
It's instead of I run into a hard spot, what do I do to get through it? Mm-hmm. You're when you assume defeat, you're throwing up your hands saying I can't do it. Yeah,
and some of it is a sense of other people are making it so I can't do it. Right? Like blaming other people for that as well is part of I can't because of them, right? Because of whatever scapegoat that you think is the cause of your inability to learn in that area.
And one thing he said is instead of that, it's like, who can I turn to for help to get through it?
Right.
Who can do it? Who can help me through it?
Right.
And that's where the that wandering shame is like, how can I get through it instead of I can't do it?
Opening your mind to the fact that it could change one way or another, right? So when we recognize in which growing desires we have assumed defeat, we can then decide to change that assumption or not. This is similar to the introductory principle of joyful learning is own, put on hold, or let go, right? So sometimes we're going to assume defeat, but if we decide to let it go, then we're not defeated.
Right.
We're just choosing to go in different directions. So it's a different feeling, right, than just letting it go. If we're assuming defeat, it might be because we no longer care about it, or if we still care, then about it. However, then we can renew our efforts to wonder shamelessly on how to pursue this growing desire in healthy and non-defeating ways.
Right.
So in what areas of your learning have you assumed defeat? And what areas have you lost hope for growth? And this is tough, right? It's hard to look at these and hard to see them. And maybe, to our listeners out there, maybe you don't have anything that you've assumed defeat in. And that's okay. It's really okay to decide, okay, I don't want to worry about that right now.
Right.
But, Rob?
Yeah. Well, again, I'm, like you said, these are personal. When you're talking about learning blockades, especially assuming defeat, those are very personal things.
Yeah.
And everybody is struggling to get through life. And I think it's important that, like you said, we're asking the question, what have you assumed defeat, or what have you given up hope on? Hopefully you can look back in your life and say, well, maybe I thought I assumed defeat, but I'm going to go about it and get it another way.
Right.
I'm going to accomplish that a different direction. I'm going to it may not be important to me enough to worry about it, so I haven't been assumed defeat. Where you may have been thinking about it, that you have, and then going through this podcast and learning about learning, you're realizing, okay, I didn't assume defeat. I just realized that wasn't important to me.
Yeah.
It's not something I want to focus on, so I'm moving on.
Right. For me, it's things when I have a lot of negative self-talk.
Right.
And in some things, when I see that cropping up a lot, I'm like, whoa.
Right.
I'm assuming defeat because I'm assuming that I'm incapable with the negative self-taught. I'm incapable of doing that. Social situations, that comes up a lot. I have a lot of insecurities. I've overcome a lot of them in the last few years, but I still have some. And when the negative talk starts propping up, I'm like, okay, I'm assuming defeat. And just naming it is like, okay, I can let it go. Like I don't have to, like I don't need the negative self-talk because I can just say, hey, it's not helping me because I am not defeated in that area.
Right. It's because, or maybe because it's not important to me.
Right.
And I can let it go. I don't have to obsess over thinking that I've failed when it really wasn't a failure. It's not. It's not something. I go back to the example I have of Benjamin Franklin. We've talked about that a number of times.
Right, humility.
Yeah, humility. He was not humble, and it was okay with him. He gave up on it. He realized that's not important to him. It wasn't one of his governing values.
Yeah, it's not that he assumed defeat. He just let
Realized,
it go.
yeah,
right?
let
He
go.
really did. There's a difference between assuming defeat and letting it go.
Right, and that's something what's very important as we discuss this is if you're assuming defeat, you're letting that negativity stay with you.
Right.
And if you realize I don't have to assume defeat because it's not important to me, I can let it go, and that negativity goes along with it.
Right.
Goes away with it.
Exactly. So anyway, thanks for joining us in this first episode about liberating healing in our learning and the learning blockades that prevent that. Next time, we'll continue our discussion of those learning blockades. So just like primary lenses, there's 7 of them. We did
Right.
1 today, and next time we'll do 3 and then 3 after that. So
Right.
as always, if you have questions or comments, if this didn't make sense to you, please reach out to us. We are happy
Right.
to help you. But message us at learningliberated@gmail.com or on our Learning Liberated Facebook group. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone else that might enjoy it as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.